Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever looked at a country and wondered, how it actually stays standing? I mean, think about it for a second. If you're building a massive skyscraper, you need a deep foundation, a rigid structural frame, an operating system to run the elevators, and, well, plumbing to make the whole thing livable. A nation is literally exactly the same. Today, we're going to treat a country just like a complex building, and we'll be using Malaysia as our ultimate case study for statecraft. We are going to break down the anatomy of a nation step by step, answering some big questions along the way to really get a deep understanding of the mechanics of how a country is built and maintained. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The spirit of nationalism. 2. Why a constitution matters. 3. Malaysia's constitutional principles. And 4. Federal government jurisdictions. So, before the ink is even dry on any laws, and way before the borders are officially drawn on a map, a massive question comes up. What actually drives a diverse group of people to become one nation? Well, the answer isn't just a piece of paper, it's a shared struggle. If we look back at the 1957 Malayan struggle against British colonial rule, we see entirely different ethnic communities who, despite their diverse backgrounds, united against a common external force. That shared drive, that collective heartbeat, is what actually gives birth to a nation. Section 1. The spirit of nationalism, the foundation. If a country is a building, nationalism is the concrete foundation. It's this invisible spirit holding the entire structure up when the winds of history start blowing. But how do you actually pour that foundation? Well, according to Smith's 1971 theories, a nation has to answer this by achieving 4 distinct goals. First, internal unity. You have to secure fraternity and equality so citizens identify as one people, very much like Malaysia's concept of unity in diversity. Second, external sovereignty. You have to unify into a nation-state and defend against foreign threats. Third, preserving a unique cultural identity so you don't lose who you are. And finally, building national strength through economic self-reliance so you can actually stand tall on the global stage. Now, nationalism isn't just some abstract academic theory. It is action. So what does this look like in practice? Well, when Malaysians celebrate National Day, or Hari Kebangsaan, that is the deliberate strengthening of national unity and patriotism. When the country promotes Bahasa Melayu as the national language while still preserving diverse traditions, that's the active preservation of cultural identity. And policies like the National Economic Policy, that was a direct answer to the need to build economic self-reliance and improve the socioeconomic status of its citizens. But here is where we have to pivot. A shared spirit is beautiful, for sure, but human nature is complicated. Once a nation is born from that fiery passion of nationalism, what happens next? What happens if the people in power start making arbitrary decisions? What happens when the government breaks its own rules? Without a system to manage that power, the exact same nationalism that built the country can quickly descend into chaos. You desperately need a rulebook. Which brings us to Section 2. Why a constitution matters, the structural framework. If nationalism is the concrete foundation, the Constitution is the steel framework. These are the load-bearing walls of the nation. So what exactly does a constitution do to keep the building from collapsing? Our source material gives us 4 critical answers. It gives the government legal legitimacy so they aren't just ruling by brute force. It divides power efficiently between federal and state levels, but absolutely most importantly, it limits the power of the government and it protects the rights of the people. Why does this matter to you? Because this ensures no single branch of government becomes a dictatorship. It protects your daily freedoms from arbitrary, unchecked decisions. Let's make this real. The Constitution isn't just some dusty theoretical document locked in a basement archive. It is a literal shield. Malaysians enjoy very specific, guaranteed freedoms precisely because they are hardwired into this framework. We're talking about equality before the law, freedom of religion, and freedom of speech. And the truly incredible thing is, if Parliament gets carried away and passes a law that violates these rights, the independent judiciary actually has the constitutional authority to strike that law down and declare it invalid. That is the ultimate safety net. All right, Section 3. Malaysia's constitutional principles, the operating system. Now that we've got the structural framework up, we need to install the operating system. Every country runs on a unique code, and Malaysia has 4 core principles that dictate exactly how its government operates. First up is the supremacy of the Constitution. What does this mean in practice? It means no one is above the law. Absolutely no one. Not the police, not the Prime Minister, not even Parliament itself. The federal Constitution is the absolute highest law in the land, and any law passed that contradicts it is automatically void. This ensures that all government authority plays strictly by the rules. The second principle is constitutional monarchy. Now, a lot of people ask, how does a king fit into a modern democracy? Well, in Malaysia, the monarch reigns but does not govern directly. The Yang di Pertuan Agong and the various state rulers act strictly according to the constitution and on the advice of the elected government. For instance, it is the Yang di Pertuan Agong who officially appoints the prime minister, but he doesn't just pick his favorite. He does so following crystal clear constitutional procedures based on who actually has the majority support. Which leads us perfectly to the third principle, parliamentary democracy. This is where the people's voice takes center stage. The government isn't just assigned to someone. It is formed by the political party or coalition that commands a majority in the Dewan Rakyat, the lower house of parliament. Through general elections, citizens choose their members of parliament, and those representatives hold the government accountable. If the government loses that majority, they can be removed through constitutional processes. This builds directly into our fourth principle. Malaysia is a federation. This means power isn't all hoarded in one capital city. Instead, there's a really clear division. The federal government handles massive national interests like defense and education. Meanwhile, state governments manage localized matters that require a closer, more personal touch, like land administration and Islamic affairs. It's a brilliant division of power that answers the question of how to avoid overlapping responsibilities and ensure the administration is actually efficient. Moving on to Section 4, Federal Government Jurisdictions, the daily mechanics. So, we have our foundation, our framework, and our operating system. Now, let's look at the plumbing. These are the day-to-day mechanics that keep the nation functioning, growing, and safe. Where do we find out what the federal government actually does all day? We look to the 9th schedule of the Constitution. This schedule outlines the exclusive authority of the central government. We are going to focus on 4 massive areas here: national defense, foreign affairs, education, and finance and taxation. Let's tackle the first 2 jurisdictions together. How exactly does a nation protect its sovereignty? Physically, it uses the military. The Malaysian Armed Forces, or ATM, operate under federal authority to ensure national security. But protection isn't just about soldiers on the ground, right? It's about diplomacy. The federal government has exclusive control over foreign affairs. Whether it's negotiating treaties or representing the country in ASEAN and the United Nations, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs ensures that out on the global stage, Malaysia speaks with one unified voice. Okay, so what about internal development? The final 2 jurisdictions handle the nation's mind and its wallet. Education is centralized under the federal government because having a uniform system, like standardizing the SPM examinations, actually creates national unity and a shared baseline for development. Meanwhile, centralized finance and taxation, managed by bodies like the Inland Revenue Board or LHDN, ensure that the country has the economic stability to actually fund these massive national programs. It is an intricate, perfectly balanced machine. We've seen how nationalism builds the foundation and how the Constitution creates the framework to manage federal power. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, provocative question to think about. As citizens, how do we ensure our government remains a tool for national unity rather than a master of supreme power? The mechanics of a nation are written in law, absolutely, but maintaining that delicate balance rests entirely with an informed, engaged public. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.